welcome back. On a day like today, you certainly could be down at the Seattle Center, even though there are no more rides. If you take your kids, I found out, you can certainly ride the monorail, and you can go eat at Westlake Center, even though most of the center house is no longer really functioning for a few years while they remodel, or a few months. Elaine Chan is here, and Elaine, first of all, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure, and you've been in the wealth management business for a long time, but this really kind of comes at a perfect time because, as I said early in my monologue, we're there with my kid. He doesn't have any money. He doesn't know what money is. He's 18 months, right? He's a foot and a half tall, waddles around. And, but there is some really good advice that you have for adults to actually help their children. And I want to ask you a little bit about that and teaching children to be financially savvy.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, help me understand. There's 18 months too young, but there is some good maybe guides that you have for teaching kids money and what age you should start doing that.
I think you can start teaching even babies, because it's really about learning the vocabulary. But there are some concrete actions that can be impactful when they're a little older. But it's just almost like music, just like a foreign language. You can start talking to them with the right vocabulary so that they get attuned to it. So you can start anytime. And so what vocabulary, stocks, bonds for a 2-year-old, I don't know, seems a little early. Piggy bank may be more appropriate. So I guess there's some age-specific things that you really have been able to teach people. Yeah, I think what happened is, there has been a lot of discussion about should the school be teaching finance? Should the school teach people to understand retirement planning, to understand investment? And I think the school definitely has put in those kind of curriculum. But the thing is, finance is a very vast field. As you just mentioned, there is the real estate, there is many other personal finance, there's corporate finance. It's just a very broad topic. So I think the best teacher for a child really would be the parent, because the parent knows what would be relevant to that child. Certainly.
So what age do you think, you had mentioned this, 6 to 10 is kind of this, maybe a good beginning point. You can start earlier, but you identified this 6 to 10. Talk a little bit about maybe what people should be teaching their kids during those 4 years.
Yeah, I think in addition to just keep teaching the vocabulary, even just talking about stocks and bonds. It's no different from, why this is a piece of broccoli versus, carrots, right? It's just vocabulary, identifying what is what. But when they are 6, they are in the elementary school. They started getting their hands-on projects because that's the school would do. They do a lot of projects. They do a lot of hands-on crafts kind of thing. And I think that's when you can also, as a parent at home, start adding on, in addition to the curriculum that the school has, of what personal finance is all about.
So when you start thinking about, you talked about identifying money, even understanding what money is. Here's lunch money. Here's money for, I don't know, whatever 6-year-olds buy. I don't know that yet.
Right. And school, actually, even the banks are now teaming up with the school and say, even at 6-year-old, they can start thinking about saving accounts. Now, I'm not too sure exactly, because my child actually did that at 6-year-old. We opened up a saving account because the bank went to the school and said, we'll help you guys do that. I didn't find it fun to do, and that's why we didn't really, and that's the piece that is very important. You got to make it fun, right? Because at that age, they want to have fun. Even at our age, we want to have fun.
Absolutely, right?
Right. So I started thinking about, well, that's not really that much fun to have a book that is so abstract. So that's the reason why I decided to, segregate the age group of 6 to 10 and then maybe older, because there's something about our brain that we just can't leap into that abstract thinking until we're a little bit more developed. Mm-hmm. So from the 6 to 10, I think it would be very effective at home to have 3 little piggy banks. It could be in any shape. It could be a truck, a car, a train, or a Barbie doll, whatever it might be.
I think the term piggy banks is very loosely used nowadays. I don't know how many pigs are actually out there getting pennies stuffed into them anymore. But why 3 different piggy banks?
Well, I like to have that finance concept, because again, I mentioned about that school would try to put in the curriculum. But what I found many schools would do is they teach the concrete ideas about mathematics. And mathematics is not the same as finance. because finance it has a much larger value system built into it. Because, your financial plan or your financial future can look very different from the person next door to you, just because you hold very different value system.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 piggy banks, in my mind, is to give you the opportunity to teach your child what you think is important in life. So there's the first bank that you save the money for whatever purpose. Let's say it's for your expenses. It could be for giving. I have my child having a little bank that she only used that for buying birthday gifts for her friends, because, that's what is going to cost money, and that's finance. What you save in there, no one is having a birthday today or tomorrow, but someday, soon enough, someone is having a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, that I, in my case, I had her to think of that as something that she's going to save for a long, 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 long time that she would never touch, and that would be retirement. But who's going to talk about retirement at 6
They haven't even gotten their first job, right? It's
Right.
a little early. Like, hey, of course you're not going to want to go work. So once, so these 3 banks, it sounds to me like you bring it into a good context where these are concrete ideas that a child can grasp.
Right.
It's not a bank account. It's not a number in a computer. This is, look, you have money in these different accounts essentially, but they're in the form of piggy banks.
Exactly. But it's so much more fun when you can actually pour it out and you count it and you touch it, and you can talk about it as you're doing that. Talk about why are you saving this? Why don't we go buy the gifts now? I mean, Susie next door is going to have a birthday soon. That gives you the opportunity to talk about discipline, to talk about, how you have to do it gradually and not necessarily rush into it and try to set aside the whole lump sum for it and not building it up over time. It just gives you a lot of opportunity to have those kind of conversations.
Do you pay your kids interest?
I don't pay her interest.
drop a penny in every month and...
That's a good idea, because that will give you the opportunity to talk to your child about what is an interest. It
is. And I love those 3 piggy bank idea, because you get to identify what they want. And one is a savings account and one is a medium, and then one's kind of that long term. We only have about a minute left. We're here with Elaine Chan. Elaine, we have to go to break here in about a minute, but real quickly, can you hit on those other age groups and what to do?
Oh, sure. When they get a little older, you can really get them to take more responsibility. So when they're older, then you can go to the bank, then you can open up an account, then you can talk about what you're going to do with the money. Do you know what is the interest rate? And when they get to the teenage time, make it relevant. It's not just about fun, because your definition of fun is very different from a teenager's definition of fun. But you just let them choose what is their objective of saving. Why do they have that account set aside? What are they going to do with the money? Make it relevant for them. So that basically you'll be teaching the same thing any age. It's just the method of teaching and getting it through them is a little different.
Well, and to continue on your point, we do have to go to break, but it would seem that that's also a way that when you start working towards your long-term finances as an adult, what are you going to save for? You almost have to constantly be reminded. You do want to stop working. You don't need that car. You do want to stop working. You don't need that boat, right? I mean, It's kind of the same thing.
You're setting that foundation for them.
Yeah. Well, Elaine, thanks so much for joining us. Again, that's Elaine Chan, Managing Principal of FIOH Global Asset Management. When we come back, you may not have kids, but you may have a house. And your house may be at a point where you're not 100% sure what you should do with it. Should you keep living in it? Should you sell? Mike McFarland's going to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about the short sale negotiation, some things you need to be sure you know before you enter into something like a short sale. My name is Ben Brashen. We'll be right back.